Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa. Today is January 25th, 2026. This is episode 15. I'm sorry I couldn't do any podcasts live for the past week. Personal matters dictated that I could not. This is being recorded. I apologize for my cold. This is being recorded on Sunday, January 25th, and will be replayed later on this evening in its edited format. Today, we're going to talk about are illegals criminals? Is that a true and accurate representation? Okay. We're also going to talk about the latest shooting in Minnesota. And you have CBS News running around saying that, he was just picked up out of the crowd and shot, and Dana Bush making some comments and, just really off base. So let's just jump right into it. This is only going to be a 15 or 20-minute show today. Let's talk about, is a person here who came over our border, never checked in with immigration, never met with an immigration official, never filled out any paperwork, are they a criminal? Well, yeah. It's a federal misdemeanor under 8 USC subsection 1325. This is why ICE can detain people and then charge them with a federal misdemeanor. Now you're going to say, well, John, if they're charged with a federal misdemeanor, they have to be given representation by a lawyer, and if they can't afford one must be provided to them because that's the criminal code. Yeah. In a sense, if they are charged with a major crime, yes. But inside this code, for the purposes of immigration fraud, they could tend to call it a petty offense. And as such, it changes what you're allowed to be represented as. It also states under that you can only be jailed for 6 months for the first offense, and then if you came over illegally again, then there's other penalties that are involved. But normally what it is unlawful entry, failure to depart, meaning you were on a visa, vacation, school, whatever, and you just decided when that visa ran out not to leave. So it's a failure to depart. Fleeing immigration checkpoints. What's an immigration checkpoint? Immigration checkpoint could be any border crossing, could be any um, any checkpoints set up by ICE, by border security, 100 miles from any coastline, any border states, to, let's say, Canada and Mexico. So you could have 100 miles into Minnesota, into Maine, into New York, into any place that borders Canada or borders Mexico. Border Patrol can stop you for any reason. I didn't say legitimate reason. Any reason. That has been held up in court where, they go, well, it's a Fourth Amendment issue. Not so fast. Been a lot of disputes about that. And it is what it is, but it has been challenged and people have lost, saying that it's a Fourth Amendment right. So the other part of 8 U.S.C. subsection 1325 is marriage fraud. I don't need to explain what that is as far as immigration, right? We all know that. And commercial enterprise fraud. So let's again take Minnesota. Marriage fraud. Omar married a brother to come into the United States. Okay? Allegedly. Commercial enterprise fraud. I don't know. Starting a daycare, never daycaring kids, serving tens of thousands of meals that were never served, yet charged the government. Ambulance services that were never used by anyone, but charges against Medicaid were presented. Yeah. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, folks, in Minnesota. So, by the United States government being able to classify some of these as being petty offenses, petty offense under our immigration civil law, you don't get a lawyer. You can obtain a lawyer for yourself if you so desire. And you could also give up your rights to a lawyer, which many do, because they know when they're spoken to that if we find anything more here, yeah, we'll get you a lawyer, but you're going to go to big boy school when we prove our case. So, don't fight the deportation and leave. We'll fly you out. Probably give you some money too. And off you go. Where you have the left, they're all screaming, they're kidnapping people. No one is being kidnapped. And you have people like CBS News that goes out there and that's all they show. And then when you go to a protester and ask them, what are your issues? And they go, well, they're kidnapped. No. Well, Trump said he was going to go after the worst of the worst. Yeah, that's true. How do we know? When the courts won't allow us access to a criminal, how do we know? How do we know what the worst of the worst is? We don't. In most cases. In some states, they do report to ICE, this guy, we just picked them up, or this individual, we just picked them up, and this is what they did. And they hand them over. And then if they're here illegally, no documentation whatsoever, off you go. You go into a camp. You get to hire a lawyer if you can hire a lawyer. And you get to go in front of an immigration judge and plead your case. But 99% of the time, you're taking a trip. By keeping it a petty offense where they don't escalate the charge up higher is just for that reason of knowing that these people can't go uphill with this, for the most part. Some can, but most can't. So, they tell me, hey, you got caught. You violated this. You overstayed. Those are all criminal acts. I asked the President of the United States, don't call me during my live show. Donald, I'll get to you. Let me make my point. So, in the case where they know that these people can't have the resources, even if they go to the judge and goes, listen, I'm very sorry, and blah, 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 and the judge goes, no, you're going to be deported. They have a right to an appeal. Now, I don't know if the courts could then escalate up. When I say the court, could the Department of Homeland Security come back for a second bite of the apple in non-legal terms? I don't know. But I think most of them just accept their fate and off they go. Now, if they try to come back in again illegally and they're caught again, or they've been deported and they've been caught again, that's a much more serious crime. They are under, believe it or not, they are entitled to legal representation. If the court, if Homeland Security wants to truly engage the 8 U.S.C. subsection 1325, then they have to provide them. That's the law. Anyone that was committing marriage fraud, anyone committing commercial enterprise fraud, they're going to be charged in big boy charge, not petty. But people who had come over illegally and there's no documentation of them, or they overstayed their welcome, then that's considered petty, civil. It goes a different path. But the idea of catching the worst of the worst and getting them first, and these people complaining about it, saying that that's not what Donald Trump is doing. If we catch a criminal, we don't let them go just to say, well, we'll get him later. After we get all the big fish, we'll come back for the little fish. Doesn't work that way, folks. You're caught, you're caught. And while we're looking for the big fish, if we happen to find a small fish, we're going to net them up too. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is exactly what ICE is for. Why do we have such a powerful government agency? Why? because the Democrats flooded this country with illegals. Now, Republicans also brought turned the other way for illegals. They were good, for farms. They were good for lawn services. They were good for builders. And of course, they turned a blind eye to that. I'm not saying that this is all on the Democrats. I call them as I see them. This was all the administrations before Trump. And Trump said, I'm going to follow this. Now, again, to be open and honest and factual with this, the president that deported the most amount of people up till Trump was Bill Clinton. Obama deported people. Every president has taken the citizenship away from people, naturalized. This is not just Donald Trump, but this is the first since World War II governmental organized deportation, where we're going out and sweeping like it's a carpet. And in that sense, that has not been done. Not been done. Could they have done it? Absolutely, they could have done it. And Donald Trump is doing that. And he's being fought with people from civil liberty groups, the ACLU, Democrats, even some Republicans. And saying that, he's overstretching his power, his constitutional power. And again, I keep saying that under the executive branch, there is no limit on the president. And you keep fighting with me and you keep telling, well, he can kill someone. Yes, he could. Now, he could be found impeachable for it, and then the Senate then decides judgment. But if no one said anything about it, yeah, have a nice day. The president is defining presidential power. He is not expanding the power. The power is always there. Always was there. Always meant to be there by our founding fathers. They were very straightforward about the power of the president under the executive branch. It's good to be the king. Again, what I'm getting to is that when people say illegals are not illegals, they're not doing anything illegal. They are. They are. And under the scope of 8 U.S.C. subsection 1325, if they run from ICE, they violate, even though they might be under TPS. Yeah. Those that don't have a green card or are not in the immigration process. Yeah, they need to worry. Mostly when the president said, I'm ending the temporary TPS, temporary protection status, and sending these people back home, except for certain groups. And I can understand people getting upset with that, but some of this stuff was going on for 18, 19 years. It's not temporary. And then to say, well, they planted roots here. Did they apply for citizenship? No. So they had an expectation that they might have to go back, right? Bob in New York, who I just spoke with today, and who gave me some sound advice, medical advice, when I told him, and he told me, you got to drink lots of fluid. And I said, I am, vodka. And he goes, good. That's exactly what I was going to suggest. So, see, Bob and I can agree. The idea that you were under TPS, you had every opportunity to apply for citizenship. Now, if you applied and you're in process and the wait is 3 years, but you've applied, yeah, I think that's ground that you can stay until the decision is made. I have no problems with that. I have no problems with people coming here, in a storm going on, and we put a blanket around them. We give them a warm cup of coffee, and then they go, "This is nice. I'd like to stay here," and they apply for citizenship, and that's wonderful. That's America. But if you come here and never apply for citizenship, and you just stay here, well, then I'm going to say, like I did, you don't have an expectation of becoming permanent. And now we're taking that away from you. You're going to have a chance to go in front of a judge. You're going to have to do this. You can do that, but you're going. Every day you're going to get closer to the border. Is that kidnapping? No. Is that using our laws? Of course it is. But you have the left and the media left that are trying to say, no, that's all illegal. These people have every right to be here and stay here, and let them apply for citizenship. They had all the time in the world to apply for citizenship. Where were these good people who were standing up for them? Where were these good people to say, hey, listen, you really should apply for citizenship? And then that way, the wheels are turning, and you can work, and we can get you, we can put our arms around everyone and walk them in through the door. But that wasn't the case. And in a majority of these people, they're here illegally. We have no idea who they are, when they came here, how they got here, what their background is. And some of these people could be very, very good people that didn't want to take the chance of being turned away at the border. That said, when asked the question, well, I want to make money. I want, I want this. And they go, well, then you have to get on that line. But if you say, hey, I'm afraid this country is this, or, criminals, and they go, all right, we'll give you a temporary, come on in. That's not a golden ticket to citizenship. You still have to apply. For those people that stay past their invitation, you can't do that at a hotel. You can't go to a hotel and decide, I'm not going to check out today. I'm going to stay here. You let me in here now, I'm going to stay. See what happens when you do that. It's the same case. It's the same case. And I get the fact that we're not talking about a hotel, we're talking about a family. And you make the argument, well, all right, they had kids here. Well, I'll make the argument that those kids are citizens. All right, you take your kids with them. When they turn 18, they can come back. They're citizens. Oh, you want them to stay here? Got to give them to another citizen or people that are on, paperwork for it or whatever. If not, they become wards of the state. Your choice. Well, I want my kids with me. Well, then they go into the camp with you. The detention center. I'll call it a camp. You call it whatever you want. Jail. It's not a concentration camp. They're not being forced to work. They're not being exterminated. They're not being tattooed. They are being processed. So, you know what? You're going to have to deal with that. All right. Let's see. I've been 27 minutes here. I have to get on now the shooting of Alex Preddy in Minnesota the other day. And you're having, again, CBS running around saying that Dana Bush is saying that he wasn't doing anything but trying to help a person who was being arrested evade being arrested. That's her logic? Well, he was just videotaping them. No, he was not just. He injected himself into a situation. Now, he had a gun. He was legally allowed to have that gun. Great. When he was scuffling with the ICE agents, they found the gun. They took it from him. The ICE agent is seen walking away, his back turned to him. And this individual, Alex Preddy, is seen reaching and taking something out. And it was his cell phone, later on determined it was his cell phone. But in that instance, they already took one gun from him. Did the ICE agent not find the other gun? Is he pulling this gun out as this agent is walking away? And the other agent standing by see this. They have milliseconds to respond, and they shoot him. I'm sure if they knew that that was a cell phone coming out, it would have been a different outcome. I'm certain that if he did not inject himself into that situation, it wouldn't have happened. It would not have happened. He was armed, legally. ICE took his gun away during an interaction that he had with actively engaged ICE agents. He pulled out an object, and he was going to, they say, videotape this whole thing. Okay, great. He was, I agree. He was going to do that. ICE agents had no idea what he was pulling out. Well, they should have waited. What, to be shot? Or he misses and shoots a protester standing on the sidewalk, legally protesting? He was allowed to carry a gun. But with that also takes on some certain responsibilities that you must accept. Now, if I was going to a protest, yeah, I wouldn't be carrying my gun. I'm just not going to do it. I don't carry a gun when I go to a bar. I don't carry my gun when I go shopping. Because I'm responsible enough to know that those could end up in very serious consequences. Not only for myself, but for people around me. So, you're carrying a gun because you can legally do so, and you could use the excuse, because the sun comes up and the sun goes down. That's my reason for carrying this gun. Valid statement. So, the reason why he was carrying the gun to the protest doesn't matter. He did not take the gun out that I could see and start waving it. But because this escalated very quickly, because he injected himself into an act of arrest that was taking place. Yeah, he had to, if you're a responsible gun owner, you know that when you deal with the police, you always announce you have a gun. I am armed. How do you want me to proceed? I'm keeping my hands so you can see them. How do you want me to proceed? And if they say, hey, keep your hands up, where's the weapon? We're going to take this weapon. We're not keeping it. We're just taking it. You have any other weapons on you? No? No knives? Nothing that can stick me? Nothing that can hurt me? Right? Okay. Boom. All right. Very slowly give us your license. If that state requires you to carry a license for it, whatever it is, in South Carolina, you do not need a license or anything. The only thing you can't be is a felon. So, what he did, he put himself into danger. The act of protesting did not pose a threat. The act of him injecting himself into a federal act escalated it into a confrontation. I don't know if he, when he was down on the ground, he told them, hey, I got a gun on me. I have a gun. I have a gun. Don't, and announced there. I don't know if he did that. Now, he might have done that and said, I have a gun. And they found it and took it out of him and stuff while he's on the ground. And the other ones now, that police officer removes him, that agent removes themselves from the situation with gun in sight. I found a weapon. Now, you might not have found it because you found it because I told you. And that could be an argument. But then when you go and reach for something else, maybe he had two guns. Maybe he had a knife that you didn't see. Maybe he had a cell phone. but you've already injected yourself into a situation that you should never have injected yourself into. Protesting does not give you the right to stop the lawful actions of the police or federal agents. And you can have Tim Walz screaming, I'm going to put the National Guard. Yeah, put the National Guard. Keep your people away from our people. Keep your citizens away from our people. But you can't stop us from going to citizens and going, we want to talk with you. You can't do that. You can't use, the federal government can't make you use your law enforcement resources to do the federal agent's job. So if that's the case where you voluntarily say we're not going to help ICE in rounding up people, understandable under the 10th Amendment, they can do that. But if they're not going to do it, then it comes up to the federal government to do it. You cannot interfere with the federal government. You cannot do that. You have these district judges running around going, oh, no, you can't do that. Can't. The supremacy clause. You just can't use local law enforcement. But I could send in one agent, I could send in 10,000 agents. There's no limit. There is no limit. And if the police can't provide protection, then I need more of these agents in battle gear to protect the agents actually serving an administrative warrant. That's all there is to it, folks. None of this would be going on if it wasn't for the fact that the Democrats allowed so many people here illegally. Obama and Biden never protected our border. They didn't care. They didn't care if criminals came here. They didn't care if it was the needy that came here. They didn't care. They didn't care about the American public. They did not care about the American taxpayers. Minnesota did not care about their taxpayers. Illinois didn't care about their taxpayers. New York doesn't care about their taxpayers. They know they're stuck there, they have to pay it. Their Democratic agenda is to create such a burden that it can't be done. And we must just accept these people here and make them citizens. Well, you're finding out, Democrats, just like a burglar who enters a home and then thinks they could live there. They're finding out it's a whole different, that America has a whole different idea of what should happen and could happen. Trump was elected to do exactly what he's doing. And if you think that you're going to derail America from this, from people, who use weapons against our agents, a car, physical confrontation and intervention, that's not going to hold water with the voters. I'm going to tell you that right now. And this is going to be turned on you, and turned on you big time. And you just don't see it. And you have people from the Democrats just out of their minds thinking that this or Epstein or something is going to be their magic bullet. Might not want to use magic bullet, but their magic potion to, get voters. America has already said. Now, the individuals in each one of those states is a little bit different than, of course, the casting of votes for president. But I'm pretty certain that a lot of Democrats are saying, yeah, this, I'm for law and order. And yeah, illegals are here illegally. Is ICE acting a little aggressively? No, ICE is doing exactly what's allowed to under the law. It's not being aggressive, it's being applied. So, 2026 is going to be a nightmare. I got a kick when, Kennedy was on Bill Maher. And he said, you guys are in for a shit kicking in 2026. No, we're not. No, we're not. And he kind of laughed at him. Because the president's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. The people that voted him in, he knew. There was nothing secret here. Nothing secret. Trump is doing exactly what he said he was going to do, and he's going to reiterate that. He's going to re-energize the people who are already energized. And the Republicans are going to carry the day again in 2026. And you'll have all these people up until the election. If we lose this is the end of America. Look at the democracy he's taking away from us. Nothing's been taken away from anyone. Number one, we're not a democracy. We're a republic. But none of our laws are being taken away from us. None. Not a single law. Not a single law. And you have these people that are out there now screaming, oh, they're kidnapping people, taking people from their children. Yeah, you get arrested for a crime, you're separated from your children. Go steal a car and see what happens. Go rob a bank and see what happens. Shoplift and see what happens. The liberals are so full of it. And they use these mentally inferior people where you go and ask them and you should tell them what the facts are, and they go, no, those aren't the facts. No. 8 USC subsection 1325, there's no such law. No, that doesn't pertain, or that, no. You can't take away a person's Fourth Amendment right. No, you can't. And they will see a judge. There does not have to be a jury for a civil action in immigration. You can be detained. You can be held. You can ask for representation, and that representation might lead to you being released. But it doesn't mean you could just do what you want to do. Or a judge can say, no, you're deported, and you have one more hearing, and if we go through that way, if we deport you, you're never coming back to this country again. If you self-deport and leave, you got a shot at coming back here legally. And that's allowed. That's allowed. Read up on it. Read up on it. So, want everyone to have a good day. Be very careful where you are if you're in the northeast section or mid-America with all the snow and everything going down. Be very careful. Even here in South Carolina, we're under an ice and warning. In the more towards the central part, towards the coast here, I think it's going to stay rain. I don't know what the temperature is right now. I will, just so you know, it is 2:16. I'm going to go watch football. And I'm forced to root for the Patriots. Okay. Right now it's 46 degrees here. We got a high today of 56, a low of 30. So not going to be too bad here. And tomorrow is a 90% between 31 and 57. It's a big spread, folks. And then Wednesday and Tuesday gets cold. And just to let you know, I might not have a live show after Tuesday for about 7 or 8 days. Though I might be able to do a couple of live shows in between that. I won't know for certain. We're trying to find some things out. And I'm lining up some more Constitution stuff to discuss, and some actions that President Trump is doing that I'm not crazy about. And one of the things I did was about Greenland. I said he shouldn't be doing that. Make every attempt to get Greenland into our territory. A huge mistake we made is in World War II when Germany took control of Denmark. We should have immediately annexed Greenland and taken it. And, Iceland. The whole thing. We should have just taken it, put it under our protectorate, and then kind of just tell them, we don't know about giving it back. I'll tell you what, you give us those properties and, all the protection we're giving you and rebuilding and everything like that, we'll call it even Stevens. But I think America was just so exhausted from the war that they didn't want to do anything like that. We just wanted to get back to a peacetime, and I think we were just physically and mentally beaten up. And there was rebuilding of Europe, and these other places weren't touched. So, yeah. All right, with that, I'm going to say good night. Everyone, like I said, be safe. Watch that weather out there. It could sneak up on you. Please give to a charity if you can. If you can't give to a charity, I certainly understand why you might be reluctant. Give to a food bank. Not only food, they need monetary funds. Monetary funds allows a food bank to directly act in that moment where they know they need things. Very important. The other thing is, please say a prayer. Prayer does work, no matter what a Democrat might tell you. And that's not pointed at Bob in New York. All right, everyone. I shall see you tomorrow. Everyone, be safe, and thank you as I fade to